Welcome back into the Arrowhead Pride Rapid Reaction Show. I am Steven Serda, joined as always by my guy, Rocky Magana, Kramer Sansone in the background, helping us keep this thing moving here on Sunday evening. Kansas City Chiefs take down the Los Angeles Rams 26-10. And I'm going to be honest with our audience this evening, Rocky. I kind of just want to keep this thing a little quick tonight and just kind of get in and get out. I'm a little under the weather. The Chiefs weren't very interested in this game on Sunday, and it really wasn't a very interesting game in general. But I think this is kind of exactly what we expected. Andy Reid was very bland offensively today. But the Chiefs, just talent-wise, going against a much inferior opponent who's starting an undrafted third-string quarterback who's making his NFL debut against the Kansas City Chiefs, it just seemed like the heart was never really in it. But of course, the Chiefs win, and there's some highlights that we'll get to from this game. But it was just kind of a slog on Sunday afternoon between the Chiefs and the Rams.
Yeah, Chiefs came into this game looking like a team that knew they were going to win the game, and the Rams looked like a team that knew the Chiefs were going to win the game. And then both teams played a football game, and it played out exactly that way. And you had about the same amount of tension in the game from something that was about similar to that. And I'll tell you what, though, the Chiefs' defense, their pass rush looked really good today. But then when you sit here and you say that the Chiefs' pass rush looked good today, it's kind of like saying, a Chiefs pass rush looked really good against a bad offensive line. It's like, for instance,
that's exactly what it was.
Steven. It's like for this. Like, for instance, you're an 8, easy. You're easily an 8. I'm easily I'm a troll. I'm like a 4 at best. Stand next to me in a photo, us side by side. You look like a 10. I still look like a 4.
Well, thank you.
That's the Chiefs defensive line today.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I was thinking all throughout the game. And really, I think we should start with the defense, because the defense was better today than the offense was overall. And the defense really, I think, was more exciting to watch than the offense at times in this game. They were putting pressure on Bryce Perkins throughout the entire contest. But like you just mentioned, Rocky, and we covered it plenty at Arrowhead Pride coming into this game, the Rams have one of the absolute worst offensive lines in football. So if you couldn't dominate this offensive line, there was going to be some issues. And everybody got in on the sack party today. And this is exactly what their defense should have done against this offense. Like, Chris Jones had a sack. Frank Clark looked really good today, and he actually looked explosive. Like, maybe we're going to get Frank to go on a little run here down the stretch as the Chiefs try to claim the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. George Karlaftis got a sack today. Willie Gay got in on it. Like, that's what you do against this team. This is how you should win this game. And it doesn't always have to be pretty in the NFL, but the offense was kind of just going through the motions today. So it was nice to see this Chiefs pass rush just dominate their offensive line. Even though we know their offensive line is inferior, they did exactly what they're supposed to do. And that's all I really cared about going into this game.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you can hope for. That's what you hope to see out of the defense in a game like this, where you're going against an undrafted quarterback who's never started a game in the NFL before. Allen Robinson's out. Cooper Kupp is out. He has no targets that are dependable wide receivers. And you want to see this Chiefs defense come out here and kind of just lay the hammer down, shut them down. Don't let them really get anywhere. One drive aside where they looked like they got a little bit lazy there, when they gave up the touchdown. Other than that, the Chiefs defense balled out today. There was a couple of times where I think the Chiefs got into their backfield so easily that they just kind of stopped for a second and were kind of looking at Bryce Perkins because they didn't want him to break containment, but they didn't really know what to do. They were like, wait a minute, why are we in the backfield so fast here? Let's just kind of keep this guy in front of us and make him throw the ball, and then we'll break it up. Carlos, everybody on the team looked great today. L'Jarius Sneed, oh my gosh, I held my breath because you don't want to lose L'Jarius Sneed on a game that doesn't matter like this. And the fact that he was able to come back and ball out like he did, was awesome, but he was all over the place today.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up L'Jarius Sneed because he did leave the game in the first half to be evaluated for a concussion, but he came back in at the start of the second half, and you could see his interception right here, which was a game-changing play immediately following maybe the worst red zone interception of Patrick Mahomes' career, where it was a series that saw them do a pitch to Sky Moore, throw back to Patrick Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes tries to throw a touchdown to Travis Kelce, but it gets batted down in the end zone. And then he follows it up with a play where he's escaping pressure, trying to make a play like we've seen him do countless times, and just throws a really bad football and throws it right to a Rams defender. And then L'Jarius Sneed comes in on the following play once the Rams take over and makes that interception, which he did play great today, and he is one of the most underrated players in football this season. And I don't think it's crazy to say that. Like L'Jarius Sneed, his coming into this season, I feel like a lot of people were like, he is a great blitzer. He is a great tackler. He can give you a lot there, but he leaves a lot to be desired as a cover guy. And I think this season we've really seen him shape himself into one of the better cornerbacks in the NFL and one of the better defensive players in the NFL. Like he is just a really, really talented player who makes plays for the Chiefs on a weekly basis. And he's a really, really important piece to this defense, especially when you look ahead on the schedule. And next week you got to take on the 7-4 Cincinnati Bengals, who beat you twice last year and have been looking pretty good recently.
Oh, 100%. You're going to need all your bullets in your chambers. You know, if you're the Chiefs defense going into next week against Cincinnati, the Chiefs shouldn't have lost to Cincinnati last year, but they lost to them twice. Like you got to be feeling some sort of way if you're the Chiefs defense and the Chiefs offense for that matter going into next week. And the thing you got to love about L'Jarius Sneed is a lot of times people say, oh, well, he might be, you know, you might be giving up a little bit in coverage with him, but that's because he purposely puts himself on the toughest assignment. Like he'll go to Coach Reed and say, okay, listen, we're getting beat by this guy. Put me on him on the outside. Like, let me battle with him. I'm not going to back down. I might get beat a couple of reps, but he's going to go toe to toe with the guy. And in the end, he's going to win more than he loses. And that's the thing that you don't see in a lot of defensive backs, I think, is they say that you have to have a short memory to be a defensive back, right? Yeah. But L'Jarius Sneed has a short memory and he's a pit bull. You know what I mean? Like he's not going to go back down. He's going after you every single rep. And it doesn't matter if you beat him last time. He's coming right back at you.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning in this game too, and we'll get to the offense here in just a minute as a commenter mentions. I want to remind you guys, use hashtag AP Rapid Reaction in the comment section. We'll try to get to some of your observations and takeaways from the Chiefs win over the Rams at the end of the show. But I do want to mention before we move off of the defense that linebacker Willie Gay and rookie safety Brian Cook, who was getting the start with injured Juan Thornhill out in this game, did at one point collide in this game. Brian Cook was trying to make a tackle and accidentally just helmet to helmet hit Willie Gay, and they both went down, but Gay was able to stay in the game. Cook was getting evaluated on the sideline, but it seems like they're both okay. So no serious injuries coming out of this game, which is a huge plus ahead of next week's massive game against the Cincinnati Bengals. But yeah, I think the defense really deserves a lot of credit today because the offense felt like it was just kind of going through the motions. You know, you're playing an inferior opponent. It never at any point in this game did you think the Rams were going to come back and you know, pull off a massive upset or anything like that. Like, it was just a nice, easy kind of slog of a victory on Sunday for the Kansas City Chiefs. But a player who continues to show up each and every week for this defense, despite the criticism that he undeservedly gets sometimes from members of the media and Chiefs fans across Kansas City, is linebacker Nick Bolton, who again looked fantastic today. And it's, you know, if you want to pick apart Bolton's game and say like he's unimpressive in certain situations, like I don't think that's really fair to him as a player. I think that he is really, really good at what the Chiefs need from him. He is not a great coverage linebacker, but for the second consecutive game, he was all over the field for the Chiefs and is making big tackles. And then he comes up with an interception for the second consecutive game. And yeah, that was a batted ball, which the Chiefs are great at this year, by the way. But those passes deflected at the line of scrimmage, they've been fantastic at that all season long. But Nick Bolton is just a playmaker. Like, he always seems to be in the right spot. He's always where you need him to be to make a play when you need something from the defense. And he's really, outside of Chris Jones, there's a case to be made that Nick Bolton has been the Chiefs' most consistent playmaker on the defensive side of the ball this year.
I mean, listen, if you want to cherry pick reps, you can make any player look bad. Guess what? Justin Jefferson doesn't win on 100% of his routes. Patrick Mahomes doesn't make 100% of the best reads. Patrick Mahomes doesn't make 100% of his throws. He missed a couple of throws today that we saw, and he had that horrible interception. If you want to go through and cherry pick reps on a guy, you're always going to be able to make a case for why this guy is quote unquote not good. But you know what? Turn on the tape. The tape speaks for itself. Nick Bolton is a baller. He plays downhill. He's the best tackler in the NFL. He wears the green dot. He's responsible for getting everybody lined up on the defense and in position. Anytime you see a great defensive play on defense, it's because Nick Bolton got them lined up where they were supposed to be ahead of time. Nothing happens on this defense without Nick Bolton having a hand in it. That also being said, I could be wrong, Serda, but is he leading the team in interceptions this year? After this week and last week?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but it probably is right.
Who else has 2 interceptions?
They haven't turned the football, or they haven't created turnovers a ton this season. So I don't have that up in front of me right now, but I'm just going to assume that it's right, because I'm
going to say Nick Bolton leads the team in interceptions. And so Nick Bolton and on out there who are trying to spin a false narrative that he's not a good football player, like it's just not true. Like you had an idea, you maybe thought that you had the tape to back it up earlier in the season, but as the season continues to progress, Nick Bolton has the receipts, and he's putting the plays on tape that he is a fabulous all-world linebacker, one of the best in the NFL. And it's not a discussion. It's just a simple fact at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I don't believe Nick Bolton is truly like an all-pro level linebacker just yet in his NFL career. But he's only in his second season, and he's gotten better this year than he was last season. And he is a very, very important part of what the Chiefs do defensively. And I think part of the reason that we've seen them kind of improve as they get healthier and healthier this season is what you just mentioned, Rocky. Nick Bolton knowing where everybody needs to line up, getting them set up, making the calls, and making sure everybody knows their assignments and all of that stuff. Like, he is a really impressive player for the Chiefs who is on the rise. So I don't think we need to criticize his game constantly when he seems to make plays for this defense each and every week. And there's always something that you can cherry pick from an NFL game. So Nick Bolton's fantastic, and we should all enjoy him because he is a great player. But I want to move to the offense.
And it's confirmed via ESPN. Nick Bolton leads the team in interceptions.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so that's a team with a lot of young defensive back talent. Nick Bolton is your team leader in interceptions this season. But moving to the offensive side of the ball, we already mentioned the bad trick play in the red zone, and this offensive performance from the Kansas City Chiefs, despite Patrick Mahomes still throwing for a lot of passing yards. He only gets a 1 touchdown to Travis Kelce in the first quarter of the game. It was just kind of a slog. And, the Rams defense isn't terrible. Like, they still have some playmakers on that side of the ball. And you can see Travis Kelce just cooking Jalen Ramsey right now. But, Aaron Donald's still Aaron Donald. They've got some other nice pieces along that defense. But I don't think that this offensive performance was something that we need to worry about Kansas City, or like the Rams were doing something specifically that was giving them problems. It just kind of seemed like they weren't that interested in this game. And we've seen this Chiefs team play down to their opponents at times in the past. So I don't think that's crazy. And I also think there is truth to Andy Reid knowing Well, I don't need to show them a ton of stuff this week. Like, we got a really big game against the Bengals next week, and I've got some stuff because they beat us twice last year, and I've got some stuff that's specifically for them that I'm going to dust off and bust out next week. So we can kind of come to the table with this vanilla game plan, and we're talented enough and we got enough playmakers that it'll be enough to win. And that's exactly what it was for the Chiefs offensively on Sunday.
Yeah, 100%. Andy Reid is a master, and people will complain about the Chiefs don't blow teams out, right? Like the Chiefs, they don't put their foot on the throat of a team. They don't blow them out very often. What the reason why is because Andy Reid is a master of knowing how much he needs to do to win a football game. Like you'll see it in the second half against good teams. You know, the Chiefs will get up by a certain percentage, and then he'll take his foot off the gas, and the Chiefs end up winning by 9 points or something like that, right? It's aggravating to fans sometimes, but the reason why is because Andy Reid has such a good feel for the tempo of a game and the flow of a game that he knows exactly what he needs to do to beat that team on that day, and he's not going to show anything else other than that. And I mean, I think you saw that, perfectly on the final drive of the game. If the Chiefs really wanted to get in the end zone there at the end of the game, it's not like the Rams are really going to be fighting them that hard. The Rams wanted the ball back. The Chiefs genuinely we're just going to run the ball Pacheco over and over and over again. If we get in the end zone, good. If we don't, we'll kick the field goal. We'll be up by 16. They don't have enough time left to come back. I mean, that was literally their game plan there at the end of the game. The trick play, I honestly think Andy Reid's probably been sitting on that play for a while, and he doesn't think that it was going to work. He didn't think he could actually get away with it. So he said, you know what? Let's try it against these guys. Let's just try it against these guys and see if it works. And it didn't. And now he knows, and he can sleep at night knowing that the play that he wanted to know if it worked didn't work.
I will say on that play, it seemed like it was there. Like it was there and they could have pulled it off. I think that Kelsey was open for a second, but Mahomes kind of hesitated to throw the ball because I think he was scared he was going to drop it on the throwback. And so he took longer to actually look Kelsey's way than he normally would. And that's why he wasn't able to find him for the touchdown. But that's exactly what that play felt like. It just felt like, we're on cruise control today, and I've just been wanting to try this play for a while. So let's just throw it out there because I'm certainly not going to do it in a big game. But this game, sure, let's give it a shot.
That's exactly what it was. And I'll tell you what, coming out of this game, like there's no real concerns on offense, even though they didn't look great today, other than the fact that MVS continues to be MVS, and he's unreliable. He lets way too many balls hit his hands and end up on the turf. I feel like Marquez Valdes-Scantling is that friend that everybody has where you make plans to hang out, and then 8 times out of 10, the day of, they either don't show up or they cancel on you, right? But those 2 times that you guys hang out, you always have a really great time together, and it's like awesome. So you stay friends with that person, knowing that 8 out of 10 times they're just going to cancel on you. That's how MVS is when you throw him the ball. 8 out of 10 times he may lose concentration and make a bonehead error, but then those 2 times he's going to make a catch, in a contested catch like he had in the late in the second half. That was completely awesome. That kind of makes it all worthwhile.
And that's exactly who MVS is. And we knew that when he signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's got the size, he's got the speed, he lacks a little bit in the route department, and he's inconsistent at getting open. Like that's kind of who he's been his entire NFL career. But occasionally he can make some big plays for you. And, he did that today. Patrick Mahomes hit 10 different pass catchers again today. But the highest yardage total was Travis Kelce with 57 yards. MVS was right behind him with 56. Like the ball was getting placed all over the field like it has been all season with Patrick Mahomes. They just weren't creating the big explosive scoring plays. And again, it felt like they were just kind of going through the motions of this game. But Isaiah Pacheco continues to take the Chiefs' early lead back role, and he was fine today. Nothing like totally overwhelming where you're like, oh man, like I am so juiced about Pacheco. I still think right now he looks like he's a fine NFL running back, but he certainly hasn't shown you anything to make you believe like, oh, this guy's going to be a superstar just yet in his career. but he did find the end zone for his second NFL touchdown. And Ronald Jones was on the field. He actually got a couple of plays. They actually threw a pass to him. That was his first touch as a Chief. They decided to dial up a Ronald Jones screen pass. That is not what I was expecting at all. But he actually showed some juice. And with Clyde Edwards-Helaire on IR, we're probably going to get some Ronald Jones here over the next few weeks.
I mean, I think honestly, if you look at tonight, that was one of the bright spots, is that Rojo looked like he had some life in his legs. Ronald Jones and Isaiah Pacheco are kind of a pretty electric 1-2 punch, coming out of the backfield. And then you have Jet McKinnon on passing downs and then pass protection. And you're not losing a lot. Like it stinks that Clyde's on IR, but it didn't look like you lost a whole lot today with Rojo out there in place of Clyde. I've been kind of I've been down on Rojo since the Chiefs signed him, and I've questioned the signing. But after tonight, I'm excited to see more Rojo in this offense. I mean, he looked like he was running strong. He was decisive. He got upfield fast. He looked great in the passing game. I mean, I thought it was a pretty promising first outing for the guy.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen bursts of success from Ronald Jones in the past during his time with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like, we know he can be a capable early down running back. He's always struggled with the pass blocking and the pass catching. He's always been really inconsistent about that. But I am interested to see him get a few more opportunities here over the next few weeks while they're working on getting Clyde back on the field, because I do think Clyde will step back into a role in this offense. But it is good to see Ronald Jones show some burst and some juice when he gets some opportunities. And, Travis Kelce, of course, finds the end zone again, just continues to absolutely dominate for the Chiefs. He already has 12 touchdowns on the season, which is a career high. And he's on pace right now to set the tight end touchdown record, which was 17 set by Rob Gronkowski. So if Travis Kelce's season continues on this trajectory, it could be another historical season for him. Patrick Mahomes already setting records and seems like he is all but a lock for the NFL MVP. But before we get out of here, I want to mention rookie wide receiver Sky Moore. Now, Sky, of course, again fumbled today on his first opportunity to return a punt early in the game, giving the football to the Rams in really good field position because he fumbled the punt. Yet again, it was his third time this season. He did not return as the punt returner for the rest of the game, which apparently it took 3. That 3 is where Dave Toub drew the line and said, okay, we can't have you out there doing this. Even though we've been screaming for weeks, he just looks uncomfortable in that role. He does not look like he belongs back there. It's not something he did in college. It's not something he's had a lot of practice at. Like, just stop putting him out there. And so we saw Trent McDuffie take some punt reps. We saw Justin Watson take some punt reps. If Kadarius Toney returns anytime in the near future, we'd expect that he's probably going to be their main punt returner. And it just feels good that they're finally committed to moving away from him as a punt returner, because that's just not what he does. But offensively, he got more reps again with McCole Hardman on injured reserve right now. Sky Moore looks like he could be a playmaker in this offense. He looks like he could be a really good weapon for the Chiefs down the stretch here if they just continue to find ways to get him the ball, and especially trying to fill that McCole Hardman void. And I know a lot of people are up and down on the play of McCole Hardman throughout his entire Chiefs career because he's been inconsistent at times. But he was in the middle of his best season as a Kansas City Chief, and he was a serious weapon for this offense. So they need other players to step up. Juju was kind of eased back into action after the concussion. And Sky offensively is making plays. Like, he looks good out there as a wide receiver because that's what he is. He's just not a special teamer. He's not a kick returner. So I think that's the biggest thing we should take away from this game. The Chiefs finally committed to not having him return kicks because it is a flat out liability, and we should all be happy about that.
I think you hit the nail on the head when you said it's not Sky Moore's fault that he fumbled the football. He is not a kick returner. He's never been a kick returner. Sky Moore was not born a punt returner. Sky Moore was born a wide receiver. And guess what? Sky Moore is a really, really good wide receiver, and he's kind of coming into his own, and he's making some plays for this offense, and he stepped up today in kind of a big way and made some tough catches. But the only person to blame for the Sky Moore fumbles at this point is Dave Tobe. He's the one that keeps running the guy out there who's not comfortable in the position to do it over and over and over again. And Dave Tobe is in his 10th season with the Chiefs as special teams coordinator, and also what I think it's 5th as assistant head coach. And he's been a great coach for the Chiefs over all these years. He's not having his best season this year. I mean, you put Sky Moore out there over and over and over again and try to force a square peg in a round hole and make him something that he's not. And then you get beat on a fake punt today as well, which isn't a great look. And you can't say that, okay, well, the guy ran a great route. That was Trent McDuffie out there. If the kicking team if the return team was looking for a fake punt, there's no way Trent McDuffie doesn't cover that route. You can't convince me otherwise. And we've seen this multiple times throughout the season. We had the onside kick against Jacksonville where I don't know what it is. I don't know if he's stretched too thin or if he's really trying to work with Harrison Butker and get him back to 100% or whatever's going on there. But Dave Tobe keeps getting caught with his pants down. And it's not a situation where okay, well, sometimes they try an onside kick or they try a fake punt and we stop them and sometimes they get it. So far this season, it feels like they just get it, and we keep on getting caught. And today it didn't matter. It was not going to matter at all today. There's never a scenario where us not stopping that fake punt was going to matter. But guess what? In the playoffs or next week, that's going to matter. And if he doesn't lock it up soon, then that's going to matter in a very important game, and it's not going to look good.
Yeah, I think that Dave Tobe is in the middle of his worst season here in Kansas City. I think that coming into this season, because of the shape of the roster and all of the young players that they went out and drafted, it kind of affected Dave Tobe being able to fill out that back half of the roster the way that he normally likes to with his special teams guys. Like, I know Marcus Kemp is on the team technically at this point, but there's a lot of those kind of guys that are Dave Tobe guys that he usually has a say in those guys because they're good special teams players. They're guys that he can put out there and rely upon to not be liabilities on that side of the ball. And, I think this season he didn't have as much say in it just because the Chiefs have so many young players and so much youth. And so they've struggled a little bit, but you just can't be a liability on special teams. I think back to the Green Bay Packers and their playoff loss. It basically came down to their special teams being a total liability, which is what they were all last season for that team. And I don't think the Chiefs' special teams are quite that bad. You just can't be sitting around waiting for them to make a mistake. And it seems like they make a mistake every single week now. But you're still one of the most talented teams in football, so you generally overcome those mistakes, aside from the Indianapolis Colts loss earlier this season. I don't know what the answers are there. I mean, we know one answer, and it's don't put Sky Moore on special teams anymore. And it seems like we got the answer to that today. So hopefully the rest of it starts meshing and they figure it out, and it all kind of work and kind of starts moving in a better direction to where we don't have to worry about the special teams every single week. But this late in the season, it kind of feels like it is what it is.
Yeah, it does feel like it is what it is. And it's not a settling feeling. But at the same time, I mean, it's hard to also argue with the results, right? The Chiefs are sitting here, running away with their division, best team in the AFC, going into a showdown with the Bengals next week. And we won walking away on a very easy game today. So it is what it is, Steve. It is what it is.
And Chiefs again improved to 9-2 on the season, ahead of their contest in Cincinnati next week against the 7-4 Bengals. Obviously, big AFC matchup next week against that team. So we'll have you covered here at arrowheadpride.com all throughout the week. Please make sure you check out everything that we have ahead of next week's game against the Cincinnati Bengals. As always, please make sure you subscribe, rate, and review everything that we are doing on the Arrowhead Pride Podcast Network. And if you're listening to us on the podcast, I want to remind you that immediately following the show, we will have all the post-game press conferences from today's Kansas City Chiefs win over the Rams. Before we get out of here, you can follow Rocky on Twitter at Rocky Magana. You can follow our producer, Kramer Sandstone, at Kramer Talks. I'm Steven Serda. That's where you can find me. We will talk to you guys next week.